what I want you, the listener, the very specific listener, to realize is that maybe this did age well. And even though he was the full participant in practice, and we've got 290 subscribers, not 20, and I didn't see the PT down the street. I actually saw a pretty reputable orthopedic surgeon who worked on professional athletes. So, hey everyone, it's Dr. Nick, and I'm not as happy to be talking about this because, we've talked about this. We have to highlight injuries. They're important for fantasy basketball. It has huge implications on teams and their seasons. Um, but there's also an underlying little bit of aura of I kind of told you so. Paul George,
A little bit, a little bit.
just a little bit. I'm gonna keep it in check. Paul George had hyperextended his left knee in the preseason and accumulated a bone bruise. Sorry, acquired a bone bruise, and he hasn't played for a period of time. And I did a bit of an extensive video talking about why bone bruises are really problematic. And obviously, you talk about his injury history, the fact that he's older, the fact that Philly now we know is not a competitive or good team. Um, and then he unfortunately goes down against Memphis. So we actually have another video where he injures his knee. So I'm sure you're going to show that for the viewer,
Yeah, I'm
real
gonna
tech
watch it.
savvy
I
stuff.
haven't seen this video, so I'm gonna play it now. All right, let's
Cool. And I'm going to
Someone's
watch it on my
open.
own
You
screen.
just
So it's
gotta
not that
look
good.
for them.
Bane right into McCain, knocks him off the George kneeling down.
He's like, my knee hurts.
Didn't see what happened. Did you see what
Well,
happened?
we don't need the live commentary. All right. He's hurt himself. Jeez.
That seems like me when I play basketball
Looks like
nowadays.
he may have just rolled that left ankle.
I went for a
bit.
rebound. Why does my leg hurt?
My heart can start beating again.
Well, that's probably
Back after this,
that's
George
probably the
Shear.
important thing here.
Looks like
This
he
is
lands
a
on
very regular play that's going to
Desmond's-
occur in the
It
NBA.
doesn't look like his knee does
Rolls
go
a
in an
little,
awkward
watch it
direction
again.
though.
Correct. That's a
Correct.
hyper. So in
Kinda there.
hyperextension
Yeah,
is where
Really
obviously
on.
we have a normal level of flexion with our knees. Some
Yep.
people are a little bit more flexible than others, but
Yep.
it's really not supposed to go beyond 180, 185, depending on how much. And again, it buckles. You kind of see it, right? So it buckles, and he goes to grab the rebound on one leg, and he's not able to return on that. This is a bone bruise. So again, when you hyperextend, it kind of makes the knees knock together. As I talked about in the last video, I'll talk about it again. It doesn't mean that he's torn a ligament or done anything like that. It doesn't even mean meniscus damage. It just usually means bone bruising. So that could accelerate osteoarthritis that is already there. It could activate osteoarthritis that was dormant. It could create osteoarthritis, or it could just mean nothing. But he currently has a 2 game period of time where he's not playing. And I think the realistic expectation is that will surpass 2 games. And yet again, Paul George will be sitting on the bench for a period of time. Now, I had highlighted the fact that if he did return, he may not get to more than 15, 20 games by the All Star break. And unfortunately, he looks on track to do so. And Philly's in an interesting position, not just because of his injury now. When it started at the season, that's just how it goes. Now they're almost, 15 games into their season. Philly really doesn't have much longer to turn it around. I know they're in a weak Eastern Conference, but at best they're about to make a push for the play-in game because it's kind of hard to imagine if they can't figure something out soon with Embiid also not being consistent in minutes and Tyrese Maxey coming back off a hamstring injury. It it just doesn't look good for Paul George. And even if it did look good for Paul George, as in, oh, he's healthy and he's playing games. Well, he's only averaging 15 points, 5 rebounds, and 4.8 assists per game, averaging 38% shooting. If you watched our previous segment of players to watch, or even players to hold, or even players to drop, we have talked about equivalent stats in there. Paul George has a name and has a history, has a career behind him that allows him to be rostered in 92% of leagues. His production this season, unfortunately, does not warrant anywhere near that. There are substantially better players out there.
So
I'm not saying that you don't stash him in your injury if you've got the slot. I'm
I,
not saying you don't try
I
to
get,
shop him
let me give
around.
you a hypothetical. Let me give you a hypothetical. I get what you're saying. I like what you're saying. In this section, I'll say, what the hell do you do with Poor George Part Two? Potentially
Again,
part two of 5 this season.
the
Who knows?
series,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, but would you, if you had Paul George, would you trade him for RJ Barrett?
100%,
Yeah,
a
yeah,
hundred
yeah,
percent.
yeah. You think so? That would
Yeah.
be and what other names would you? What other
George.
names would be out there? Would you trade Paul George for say we just talked about Malik Beasley?
The way that I would approach a Paul George trade, if I had him on my roster, is I would almost be taking any competent player from someone else. And there is a real risk, depending on how deep your league is. Like I'm thinking of 6-man leagues or 8-man leagues, that you could easily drop him to the waiver wire and you may not see him picked up. And even when he returns to action, I mean, this is where the names can really fool people.
So I guess maybe here's the thing. If I was a Paul George owner, I'm going to totally agree with you. Flip him for something if you can. So here's the catch. I guess,
If
yeah, if you can. Yeah, that's the catch.
you're going to be offered
So
something.
like, if I was a Paul George owner, and just like you said, yeah, hold definitely 100%. And someone offered me RJ Barrett, I would probably seriously take it. Yeah, 99% sure. Yeah, I would. But then let's say someone offered me Malik Beasley. Now here's the catch. You're probably saying Malik Beasley for Paul George. That's not like for like, but we're talking about statistical production, yeah, from a fantasy reality. The fact that PG now is injured again, yeah, again. Okay, so you're trying to leverage Paul George's name. So maybe you could go, hey, but Paul George, when he comes back, he's going to be able to, hopefully get back to his all-star form. Hey, give me Malik Beasley and Walker Kessler, yeah, or someone else on the side there that's obviously also maybe got a bit of an injury history, but in the back of your mind they're good for a double maybe, or even 8 and 8 or something like that, and you're getting that little 2-for-1. Maybe you got another guy that's producing on your bench right now, so you get rid of Paul George. You don't worry about that for the rest of the season. That's someone else's headache. If he does come back, well, you accept that. If he doesn't come back, you're happy. You flipped him for something productive to put into your lineup. Is that a fair enough sort of approach? I think that what we're saying you would do with a Paul George situation.
I guess the way that you've got to look at it, if you want to put it into analogy, like each player is an asset / stocks, right? And they give you different, currency. They give you different values depending on where you are. What is he giving you? What is he giving you on your roster currently? Yeah, when they're out, they're not playing. That's a common thing.
And then you put him.
Yeah, over out.
Over out.
But as I said, when he was playing, he was averaging 15 points, like 4 rebounds, 3 assists. What impression do you have that they're about to fix it? And if you're following Philadelphia at this point, there is currently a bit of inner turmoil with Joel Embiid's professionalism as a franchise player. They have a bunch of free agents who have legitimately just signed with Philly to get a close championship ring, right? Players like Eric Gordon, even Caleb Martin. Like, there's a lot of different players there that aren't working as a cohesive unit. Philly is bad. Like, Philly is legitimately bad. And the fact that we have to pull out the rookie that they've signed, that's the bright spot of this season, right? Tyrese Maxey looks amazing when he plays, but he's already injured himself. And the other thing as well is that how does Paul George fit in that offense? None of it makes you feel good moving forward, that if you can get off the asset, then you take it. And you know what? If Paul George, and this is where you have to really start to be realistic. All right, I'm going to say a sentence to you. Try not to smirk, because when you start to smirk, that's how we'll know that it's a bit ridiculous, right? So Paul George, this bone bruise, it's actually not an issue, right? He's just got hyper flexible joints. It happens all the time. He's going to be okay. They figured out a treatment plan. So he's about to string together 60 games, right? And Philly needs a hero right now. Joel Embiid's still out. Tyrese Maxey's still young. So Paul George is about to activate Indiana, right? He's about to go MVP, most improved player. He's about to get back to about 25 points a game. And even though he's a number 1 option and he's never proven it before, really, because he's always had good teammates and he's always a bit of a 1B or a 2A, whatever you want to call it, he's about to string together 25 points a game. Just defensively, he's about to get back to form, have a stock and a block, basically, and really shoot well and kind of lead Philly all the way through the East and put them back in contention with Cleveland and Celtics and even the Knicks, because I reckon the Knicks are going to be feisty. Did any of that get a rise out of you? Or are you inspired / you believe that's going to happen for Paul George?
I thought that was a great fantasy rant, but
that's great.
We are talking about fantasy basketball in a realistic world, though, right? So you can buy Nick's whole scenario that clearly if you have bought Nick's scenario, you're drunk. But
wow.
Hey,
okay.
Trade him. Surely you don't believe that Paul George has. I don't know if Paul George is actually going to be a 20-point scorer again. Would that be far-fetched to make that statement?
Well, we're seeing that with Harden in Los Angeles. Like, Harden is the only one in Los Angeles, and he's struggling to get to that 20 thing. Like, this is age. Like,
he's 34,
he's
34, and that's okay.
To have the ball in your hand that much, it's tiresome. And Tyrese Maxey has the ball in his hand. That's how it works for him. And from a future standpoint, it is Tyrese Maxey's team, because he's going to be their longest. Like, Joel Embiid may not play 5 more years in the league based off how things are currently trending, and Paul George probably won't be in the league in 5 years, or if he is in the league in 5 years, he will be on that Vince Carter tour mode, or Paul Pierce tour mode. Like, he's not going to be doing anything of substance. So, yeah, I really feel like the name is carrying that. The name is carrying that, and you've sometimes got to let go of names, and there's new names to learn as well, and that's what helps stretch this a little bit. Now, I'm just deliberately dragging this out because I just want to make sure that I tap into something, because I feel the need to tap into something just a little bit. I just need to find it. That's how, maybe you can fill the air for me while I really lock in.
Tap it in, man. Isn't that Happy Gilmore, man?
That's a segue. We're not going to talk about my recent adoption of golf, but
yeah, you did take up golf, didn't you?
I did take up golf. That was good. I've got it now. We're good.
Okay.
All I want you to know is, I pray that he's fine, right? I don't want people to be injured. I want them to play. I want a competitive league. I want interesting stuff, and I want fun fantasy, right? And I don't know about you, but there is a little bit of fun finding gems in fantasy, but it's also a bit frustrating when you draft a player who should have been way more productive than they are. But what I want you, the listener, the very specific listener, to realize is that maybe this did age well. And even though he was the full participant in practice, and we've got 290 subscribers, not 20, and I didn't see the PT down the street. I actually saw a pretty reputable orthopedic surgeon who worked on professional athletes. So just maybe don't wait for your confirmation bias. Maybe just let things age out. We're trying to project 82 games, man. We're not trying to just project 24 hours in advance. That was good restraint by me. I'm just putting it out there.
I love it. Considering you threw it out in the last minute of this video.
Just short it. Put that into shorts. That's it. That's a short.
I'll put that as the intro. Yeah, I'm gonna do that for you now. I'm gonna actually for this one. Here,
Oh, what are those?
As the intro. Here's what we'll get into. I like it. There you go. All
That's
right.